What's up, folks? What's going on? Welcome to episode number 32 of the Spun Today podcast. I'm your host, Tony Ortiz. Thank you very much for listening. This is another free writing session. I know you guys missed it because not as many of you folks listened to episode number 31, which was my second trip to India. But you seem to like these free writing ones, according to the good old Lipson numbers. So here's another one. And this episode will include, but is not limited to, a bunch of shit that I'm going to speak about, which is watching Waking Up with Sam Harris, Narcos on Netflix, my yearly tailgate, a conversation that I had with my doctor, physical therapy guy, my niece, now goddaughter's dedication, the Democratic National Debate number 1, the Republican National Debate number 2, dope coffee that I found on my quest for the perfect cup of coffee. But it is a seasonal one, and one that I would probably get sick of if I had to drink it like year round, but it's pretty dope for now. Project Greenlight, and the Amy Schumer HBO special, which was funny as fuck. So let's go back up to the top. And then, of course, that's like all the intro shit. And then I'm going to follow that with one free writing piece that I'm going to go over today, which is kind of like a utopian, grandiose type of idea, type of mind frame that I was in when I wrote it, based on, a quote that like inspired that. But why not, right? Why not shoot for the unachievable? Okay, so first things first, Waking Up with Sam Harris. Sam Harris is if you guys listen to this, you might know him because he's been on Rogan's podcast. He's been on The Young Turks. He's been on Bill Maher's show on HBO, Real Time. He's a well-respected, super intelligent dude, like neuroscientist guy, or neuroscientist. I guess I don't know why I say guy. He has his own podcast, also called Waking Up with Sam Harris. He has a book entitled Waking Up. And I recently saw he has this, not a movie or a documentary. It's kind of like, I'm going to read you the synopsis of it. It's on Vimeo. You guys can purchase it, I think, for like $4 or something like that, or $5. And it was pretty dope. Let me read you guys the description of it, because that does the best job of explaining what it is. It says here, in the fall of 2014, Sam Harris staged a series of live events in Los Angeles, New York, and San Francisco to coincide with the publication of his book, Waking Up, A Guide to Spirituality Without Religion. In these talks, Harris discussed a range of experiences that have traditionally been considered, quote, spiritual, unquote. In particular, the phenomenon of self-transcendence. Although such experiences tell us nothing about the origins of the cosmos, they confirm some well-established truths about the human mind. Our conventional sense of self is an illusion. Positive emotions, such as compassion and serenity, are teachable skills. I agree with that 100%. And the way we think can profoundly influence our lives and the lives of others. It was really good. I encourage you guys to check it out. That does, perfect job of summarizing what it is. He's very much so into meditation, which I told you guys recently I've been doing. He's on some like next level meditation shit though. I do like 10 minutes a day. And what else? So you can tell from that he's kind of he's an atheist, which he says himself, and he's pretty much explains in a lot of different like anecdotes and examples and what's the word I'm looking for? Like a lot of different like analogies and metaphors, and does a pretty cool job of explaining kind of sort of achieving the same types of, I guess, states that religious people kind of like, Bible thump about, for lack of a better term. And is very much so on more of like a practical tip, I guess. I don't know how else to say it. I think that line there says it best within that description, which is positive emotions such as compassion and serenity are all teachable skills, and the way we think can profoundly influence our lives and the lives of others. And it's a dope listen. You guys should check it out if you guys wanna don't wanna pay the $4 or $5 or whatever it is to check it out on Vimeo. You guys can not to see that specifically, but to get to know him more, I guess. Look him up when he's been on Rogan's podcast, or like I said, on the Young Turks, or on, where else has he been? He has his own podcast, also called Waking Up. He's done TED Talks, or a TED Talk, if I'm not mistaken. And you get to know, and he's been on Bill Maher, like I said, and shit like that. So, and he speaks about pretty much the same type of stuff. They get at him hard for being a little too hard on Muslims. Oh, if you guys actually saw, there was like a video that kind of went viral, or like a snippet of one of the real time episodes with Bill Maher, when Ben Affleck was like flipping the fuck out like irrationally about like Muslims and not painting them all with the same brush and stuff like that. The guy that he was flipping out on was Sam Harris, who is known for saying that there's something dangerously and fundamentally flawed about certain Muslim beliefs of within the Quran. There's supposedly, I haven't read it, there's supposedly a I don't know what it would be called, like a scripture or something, stating that anyone who leaves the Muslim religion should be punished by death. And some people that take it literally, some people that don't, obviously. And but supposedly it's the only religion that actually has that within its belief system or whatever it is. So it's not up to too much interpretation. It's just a matter of if you choose to follow that or not, or and it breeds like that fundamental fucking crazy behavior that we see, like with the Charlie Hebdo stuff and ISIS and all that type of shit. That's his mentality and all that. And whatever. Check him out if you guys want to. I enjoyed it. My fiance did as well. And that's Waking Up with Sam Harris. Next, which actually, let me segue that, since I mentioned Ben Affleck already. Ben Affleck does have a dope show, which is he has together with Matt Damon. And it's on HBO, called Project Greenlight. It's in its third season. I never saw season 2, which was, I think, done together with, I think it's in its fourth season, actually. But one of the seasons was done with like Facebook somehow, and I didn't see that. And I saw one season of it ever when I was younger, and I saw it with my brother, actually. And I'm not sure if that was actually season 1, or if that show stopped for a while and then came back, or if it was just a completely different thing. But I know it was called Project Greenlight, and it was the same type of concept as now, but back then it was like they pooled money together to make a real movie, but they had a contest for like a writer, a contest for a director, a contest for a what else? Maybe just a writer and a director. And then the best, the whole bunch of people submitted stories, a whole bunch of people submitted pieces that they directed and stuff like that. And they put them together, coupled with the financing from Ben Affleck and HBO and Matt Damon. And they made a movie. And Shia LaBeouf, and an actor also. And Shia LaBeouf was the actor that won, and like stuff like that. So I remember seeing that when I was younger. And And now I got like into the show again because I stumbled upon it and was like, oh shit, I remember this thing, and I kind of liked it. Now what they did, again, very similar, but it wasn't with a writer or like a contest for writers and actors. It was strictly just for a director, and it is meant to be a behind the scenes of how an actual movie gets made. And it's Ben Affleck and Matt Damon and HBO, and they put up $3 million as the total budget, and it has like the full gamut of what goes into making a movie. Scouting locations, assigning actors, having auditions, producer, line producer, fucking assistant director, and fucking everything, photography director, the people that fucking dress you and makeup you and like stuff like that, and like everything. And you see like all the behind the scenes shit. The writer, they brought in a writer that was actually the winner of one of the previous seasons. He was a writer director, and they brought him to assist on writing the script for the movie, as well as the Fairley brothers that made the like Dumb and Dumber and stuff like that. They brought them in to help with it as well. And pretty much it was a contest of directors, all of which submitted their own individual pieces. They're like 2 to 3 minute long like tiny little shorts. Then from that, from the quality and how good they were, they met them, they interviewed them, and pretty much selected after interviewing them. No, I'm sorry, they didn't select from there. They then, after all the ones that they picked, to narrow it down, they gave them all $1,000 and one specific topic to do another 2 to 3 minute short, to direct another 2 to 3 minute short, and had to put everything together, like the entire thing with $1,000 budget. And then based on that, they gave them like a week or two to do it or something like that. Then based on that, they sat with them, met them, and pretty much picked the director that was going to make the $3 million movie, and won the contest basically. And then the rest of the show is just every episode, going through like the ebbs and flows of everything that it takes to make a movie and shit like that, and all the pitfalls, all the fighting behind the scenes, and the producer not getting along with the director, and the director not getting along with the writer, and all the drama and shit that you would imagine comes about whenever you have dozens of people trying to work together towards a common goal. And it's pretty interesting. I'm enjoying it. I like it. And something cool that HBO did, they put on demand, if you guys check it out, like all the individual shorts that the people like actually submitted, you could watch them. They put them all on demand. And there's one in particular that's fucking super funny that me and my girl watched. I think like it's like literally 2 or 3 minutes long. We've watched it like 10 times. And it's from one of the guys that was like in the running. Like they all said that if it wasn't for the guy that they picked, they would have picked him to like win the season. Wish I could remember his name. I think it's like Chris Copel or something like that. He did one that was based on that like the Saw character. The Saw, the little dummy on Saw that has like the red fucking cheeks, like with the target looking cheeks or whatever, that little doll that fucking makes people kill each other and stuff like that. I'm butchering that, but whatever, that little crazy doll. And the short was this guy, it was kind of like mocking that, but this guy is like now roommates with that doll. And one of his boys is over and he's like, yo, so how's it like living with fucking whatever the doll's name is? And the guy was like, not as fun as I thought it would be, or something like that. And then it just shows like 2 or 3 scenes back to back of like him waking up in the morning and having to deal with the doll, him trying to go to sleep at night and having to deal with the doll, him waking up in the next morning having to deal with the doll. And like the doll, like each time is just like, in each scene he's like doing the type of shit that he did in like the movie Saw. And he's like in the first one, the guy, wakes up. He's like stumbling to the bathroom. He's about to take a shower, and the doll is on top of the bathroom sink, and he's like, Gary, you have to, he's stuck. I'm trying to do his voice. He does, he fills up the toilet full of 2-ply paper towels and dirty socks, and he puts his like iPad and cell phone at the bottom of it, and he's like, you have 2.5 minutes to stop the water from overflowing in the toilet and fucking up your electronics, and to do so you have to cross this floor full of razor blades, and it has like fucking disposable big shavers like all over the floor. It's just like funny shit like that. And then it shows like him trying to sleep, and the little puppet fucking thing is like tapping him on his face, and he's like, Gary, 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 Gary. He's like, what do you want? And then he's like, you're surrounded by a bed full of mouse traps. And it's just fucking funny. You guys have to see it. I'm probably doing a shit job of explaining it, but it's pretty cool. I thought that was a nice touch that HBO did with actually putting all those submissions in, on demand, and you could just watch them. And it's good for the people that actually submitted it. I would imagine, if I submitted a fucking short or something like that and I could see it on demand on HBO, that would be the dopest thing in the world to me. So I'm sure like those guys appreciate it like on that type of level as well. And it's a pretty cool show. You guys should check it out. That is Project Greenlight, and it's on HBO. Let's see, what else do I have here to speak about? Another show, which I binge watched the shit out of it on fucking Netflix. I love that shit. I love that option to be able to do that. Binge watch stuff now. It's called Narcos on Netflix. And it's pretty much the rise and fall, well, eventually I would imagine rise and fall, but the life of Pablo Escobar, which was the notorious gangsters fucking coke dealer ever from Colombia. And he was the person pretty much, not solely, but 80 to 90% responsible for all of the coke that came into the United States like in the 80s, if I'm not mistaken, if I have the time period right. 80s and 90s, like that era. I think he died in 93, actually, if I'm not mistaken. But like 80s, maybe late 70s, early 80s. And, well, it had to be the 80s. Because when was crack? Crack was like mid to late 80s. And yeah, well, whatever. It's fucking Pablo Escobar. If you don't know who Pablo Escobar is, Google it, and you'll find millions of things. It's a dope show. It goes through pretty much his rise into power in Colombia, and how ruthless he was, and fucking sick, crazy shit that he did. And a lot of stuff checks out. Like, we were watching the show and then Googling, you're like, yo, did that really happen? I wonder if that really happened. I wonder if that was just like for the show, like over, dramatization, and some of it was, but a lot of it wasn't. And it was, like from planes blowing up planes to try to kill politicians that were against, were for extradition to the United States, which he was against because he didn't want to get locked up and extradited to the United States and, be locked in like a jail here, because over there he fucking literally owned the fucking country. Like, he agreed to get arrested in Colombia if and only if he can build his own jail, and nobody from the Colombian government could come within 3 miles of his jail, and they granted him that. That's how much on lock he had the fucking country. And it was just, straight fucking prostitutes and drugs and anything he fucking wanted. It was he built himself a fucking mansion castle that on the outside looked like a jail, just for shits and giggles, and then inside was whatever he wanted it to be. And he still expanded and opened up his empire. And it was like, so he was really against extradition, which between the DEA and pretty much the U.S. relations. With Colombia, they put that in place to try to crack down on the influx of coke and stuff like that. The whole war on drugs and all the issues with that. And he was really against that, so he literally like had planes like blown up like regular commercial flights. I think he killed like 190 people, and to try to kill a politician that was supposed to be on that plane that wound up last minute not getting on that plane because he got tipped off by the DEA or something like that. And just like sick shit like that. He used to fucking terrorize the country, like whenever things wouldn't go his way, whenever he would be in like legal troubles and stuff like that. And at first he actually ran for Congress because he wanted to kind of fight it from within, I guess, to try to like change laws and bend rules and stuff like that in his favor. That backfired. He actually won a congressional seat, but after being there, they like exposed his drug dealings and like stuff like that, and he wound up leaving and abdicating the seat. And then from there on out, he had like a full-on vendetta against like all these politicians, and he kind of had like some sort of like chip on his shoulder, like I'm like, don't look down on me because I'm poor from a poor neighborhood, I'm just as good as you are, like type of thing. And I have more than you could ever dream of having, kind of like went a little too much like off the rails with that type of mentality. But yeah, he would like terrorize the fucking country and just blow shit up and kill people and kill cops and politicians like left and right, kidnap people, and fucking ruthless gangster ass fucking dude. And it's a sick show. It goes through pretty much his, from when he was like a petty drug dealer through his rise to being who he became and the head of the Medellin cartel. It's a pretty sick show. You guys should check it out. Narcos on Netflix. And what else did I want to speak about? A few things. I had, let me see, the conversation I had with my doctor, physical therapy guy. I'm looking at my notes here. I'm trying to see which order would make the most sense to go over this stuff, because I want to flow as much as possible. Well, let's see. All right, yeah, I want to leave that for last. I had a pretty dope weekend this weekend. Two big things that not big things, but two things that I did were, one, my yearly tailgate this past Sunday. That was a fucking awesome time, as always. If you guys haven't done tailgating, even if you're not into, I guess the only way it wouldn't be cool is if you're not into barbecuing or drinking or like hanging out or anything like that. And if you don't like football, or you could tailgate at like baseball games and shit like that too, if that's your thing. But just like as an experience, it's pretty dope. What it is, and we do this every year. I've been doing it for 5 years now. And what it is you go to, with a group of people, or, however many you want, whatever. You buy tickets to a football game, as well as parking passes for the parking lot. And here in America, I guess, if you guys are listening to this outside of America, I'm not sure, if they do this anywhere else. Let's say, for example, we went to a 1:00 game. The actual parking lot opens up 5 hours before the game. So it's open around 8 or 9 in the morning. And it's like tradition to go early and literally take barbecue grills and like cook food, listen to music, toss the ball around, have drinks, get fucking shit-faced, and just fucking chill and have a good time before actually going into the event, the game that you're gonna go watch. And that's what we did, and we do that every year. And we also actually, we got there I wound up getting to like around 9:30. I want to say 9:30 in the morning. The goal was like 9 o'clock. I got there like at 9:15, 9:30, which was good. And that was actually the fucking last one this year, which never happens, which sucked. But it was awesome that everybody else was on time, and we had a blast like we always do. Shout out to everybody that made it out. It was like 15 of us, not more than that. I think it wound up being like 16 or 17, and it was a good time. Yeah, we barbecue. We had burgers and hot dogs and chicken shish kebabs and sausage, and fucking drinks. We had a fucking shitload of beers. We do like beer funnels. We had Chivas, of course. It's my shit. Kettle One and fucking Jack Daniels, and it's just a shit show. It's fucking picture 9 o'clock in the morning on a fucking Sunday. Definitely put in to take off from work the next day. Always do that, because you're gonna need it to recover. It's a very long day, and you're fucking drunk by fucking 9:30 a.m., 10 a.m. tops. You're gone, and then we went into the game 1 o'clock. I had dope seats, literally section. I only go once a year, so I fucking opened up the cheapo wallet and sprung for decent tickets. And it was, I forget the section, but it was fucking like right by where Fireman Ed fucking stands, always in like the bottom left corner. And it was second row. So literally one row, and then in front of me the fucking ESPN fucking camera guys and players in the end zone and like shit like that. And those were really dope seats. Really awesome time. Then afterwards, one of the guys brought a domino table, very hickish, very fucking super Dominican, but awesome touch. Because we had a really good time. Me and my brother busted some ass and won 2-1. Do que sepan. And yeah, that was a really good time. And after the game, which the Jets won handily, I think by 2 touchdowns, busted the Redskins' ass. After the game, we do even more tailgating and continue eating and drinking, and it's just a dope time. We do it for a couple more. Excuse me. Do it for a couple more hours, and it's just a super long day. Traffic is always a motherfucker after those things. That's why we tailgate afterwards, to let the parking lot like empty out, which is a very good idea. I encourage you guys to do that if you ever do tailgating. And because why rush to be in traffic? You know what I mean? For that, chill out, have fun for like an hour or two more. But traffic even after the parking lot, like once you get into the highways and shit like that, and you're hitting like the Lincoln Tunnel, going back to fucking New York, it's always a bitch. Always. It's a fucking Sunday night. You would think people would fucking be home like decent human beings. And now like fucking savages out. And they're not. Fucking sucks. But yeah, it was a really good time, man. And look forward to doing it every single year that I can. Last year, before I segue into the next thing, last year the whole thing was set up. Was the only year I didn't go in the past 5 or 6 years. The whole thing was set up. All tickets were purchased. Everything was set up, and that's when my niece was decided to come out and be born. And my brother's wife went into labor. The game was on Sunday, always, that we go to, Sunday at 1 o'clock. And she went into labor like Saturday. So we were kind of like, if she, has the baby, everything's fine, maybe we could still make the game. And then baby wasn't born Saturday. She wasn't born all day Sunday. And then she wound up being born on Monday. So she's probably going to be a Giants fan. That's what everybody was saying. And I couldn't go last year for that reason, but obviously I wouldn't change that for anything. So it was definitely a dope time. Now, speaking of my niece, that was on Sunday. The Saturday right before, the day before that, was her dedication. Dedication, for those of you that don't know, I didn't know, and found out recently, that it's kind of sort of like, not like a baptism, but similar to it. It's like a step in that direction of getting baptized within like the Christian religion, and they believe that actually getting baptized should be like a choice that the actual child or the person makes once they're old enough to make that decision, which I think makes a lot of sense, and it's pretty cool. But before then, again, just a step in the direction of that faith, they have something called a dedication, which my niece had this past Saturday, which was really cool. It was a nice time, something new and different that I had not partaken in the past, and it was in a church, and it was kind of said it was like it's a baby dedication ceremony, so there's a bunch of like other babies doing the same thing, and there's a picture, like 10 or 15 like round tables, 8 to 10 chairs each, and just like all different families, and at each table a different family, and then they have like a few projector screens with pictures of the babies, and scrolling through, and the families, and they have a pastor, and he says a few things, and then the way it works is the parents write something for the baby that's being dedicated, and you just speak. It's not like really like on the spot, not really on the spot. It was kind of on the spot for me. It was like a last minute kind of thing, but I'll get to that. But it's not like, I guess, like on the spot in front of like the whole, I don't know if you would call it like a congregation or, like the whole like church kind of thing. It's more like intimate, and to me more meaningful that way. Where you're in the circle, like with the family, the, round table, and the parents both had to write something for their child, and what they want for them, the type of person that they want them to become, and the type of, I guess, like morals and character that they hope that they build one day. And it was pretty cool. So my brother said something which was awesome, and sorry, I had something in my fucking throat. So my brother said something which was awesome, and so did the baby's mother, and it was cool. It was like a nice, emotional, like cool little ceremony thing. I didn't think I had to say anything, so I really had nothing prepared, and I'm really horrible at like on the spot stuff. For any of you use that know me. So I just wound up saying like a very generic, like I love you, I'm always there for you, which is true. But I would want to have said more, something to the effect of, which I didn't really prepare anything, but I know what my advice to my now goddaughter would be, which is eventually when she grows up to listen to this, because she's going to be a super fan of the Spun Today podcast. I would say, aside from, like I said, obviously, I love you, I'm here for you always, would be never be afraid of being who you are, which sounds kind of cliche and sounds maybe kind of obvious, but to me it wasn't for a very long time. And and by very, very long time, I mean like only within the last couple of years have I been more like comfortable with me and like kind of like in my own skin type of thing. And it's a very, once you realize that, once you get past that, it's a very, I don't know, kind of like freeing and like liberating type of feeling. You get to like enjoy and experience life, I feel, like in a very, very, very different way that you otherwise don't get to when you kind of, I don't know, feel like you can't do that, like you can't really like express yourself kind of, So that would be my biggest, I guess like word of advice or what I would want for you. which is to not be afraid, again, to be yourself, and mainly to be into whatever it is that you're into, whatever the hell it is. So, and by that I mean, for example, I personally spent a long time being into, let's say, certain things that never really kind of like made sense together. If that makes any sense. Like, let me think of an example. Like, I like hip hop. Fucking a huge fucking, fan of, certain artists like Jay-Z and Eminem, and super big into that. But I also found enjoyment in fucking NSYNC and fucking, I don't know, like teeny bopper fucking type music like that, and poetry, and fucking, I could get into, movies like The Godfather and Pulp Fiction, but also like plays and not opera. That's a fucking fact. No, I'm joking. But I like plays and, like Broadway plays and musicals and like shit like that. And it's like things that kind of like, how do you like that? And also this, like, it doesn't fucking make sense. So it's kind of like, then you want to going around and saying, okay, I'm around these people, so I have to be into this when I'm with them, and I can't mention that I'm into this, because like, fuck all that shit. Never be afraid to be into whatever the fuck it is that you're into, whenever you're into it, and pursue it to no end. And that's when you will find like true happiness and comfort within yourself. And that's my advice to my now goddaughter. So yeah, that was the baby dedication. And let's see what's next. Okay, so let me do this. One's gonna take a minute. All right, whatever. I spoke about the Republican national debate, the first one that I saw, and I saw not all, but like 40. Let me see, like 40. I think for like 3/4 of the second Republican national debate, and I have notes here and everything on this shit. Don't look for anything like too fucking comprehensive or anything, but just a few things that I wanted to point out when watching it. And I also watched the first Democratic national debate. That one I have like more shit on. But for the Republican one, let's get that one out the way first, because it's a little more. I didn't write like too much on it. I didn't finish the entire thing. I saw the majority of it though, like 3/4 of it. And it's like so I already covered like the first one more in depth. So I'm going to spend less time on this second one. And it's not anything too new or anything like that. And again, we're fucking like a year out from the actual elections, so there's gonna be a lot more of this shit. So let's see. First off, way too many people. There's fucking 11 people in the debate. Like, fucking start unifying or some shit, and putting support towards like one of you fucking guys. So yeah, it got like really hairy and confusing and stuff like that, which is one of the reasons why I didn't feel like continuing to watch it. Plus, it was much less like substantive. You know what I mean? It was a lot of back and forth and jabs and bullshit. Something of which what's his face? What's his name? Chris Christie from Jersey, the governor from Jersey, did a good job of, I think, of trying to keep them on topic and keep everybody like on point and discussing like certain things. At least 2 times throughout the debate, he like called people out on, why are you asking about that when the real issue is this and that and blah blah blah, and brought up stuff like healthcare and immigration and all the like hot button issues that people are actually concerned with, as opposed to like some bullshit like back and forth, which was funny going on between especially like Jeb Bush and Donald Trump. He's like so brute, so fucking like childish and which is like interesting in the sense of like he's not PC at all, like at all, which is refreshing in a sense, because you're tired of like the same, like rhetoric and bullshit responses and roundabout answers and stuff like that, which you definitely don't get from him. But at the same time, it's like distracting in that like Jeb Bush was talking and Donald Trump is like standing next to him making faces and like saying like, yeah, right, like he's lying, and look at this guy, and like fucking ridiculous shit like that. And like what when Carly Fiorina, which is one of the ladies running, I forgot what she is. She's like a senator or something. Or was, no, I'm sorry, my bad. She was the CEO of Hewlett Packard, which has a step down, and is a story in and of itself, but that Trump was calling her out on. But she said something to, no, was it her or was it Ted Cruz? Said something to the effect of does Donald Trump look like the type of guy who has the demeanor that you would want in someone holding the key to our nuclear arsenal or something like that? And Donald Trump's response was you, I know you don't want to speak about looks, because if we speak about looks, I got a whole bunch of stuff to speak about. Or something so fucking like juvenile and fucking hilarious though. But it's just like shit like that is like, really, dude? You're fucking running for president and you're leading the polls somehow. It's fucking interesting. And what else? Then Carly, I think her first name is Fiorina. She plays super, super composed, like her role. And does it decently well, but you could just fucking tell in that bitch's eyes that she will fucking cut you. She's like that type of like broad, and I don't buy that shit for 1 second. That fucking calm, cool demeanor that she's like putting off, it's fucking straight bullshit. She looks like she'll flip the fuck out and fucking nuclear bomb entire fucking Eastern Hemisphere or some crazy shit like that. Please don't vote for that bitch. With all due respect. What else? Chris Christie. Stop wasting time. Political rhetoric, blah, blah, blah. That's what I mentioned that before. I'm just reading my notes here, guys. My shitty notes I did on a notepad a couple days ago. And what else? Dr. Carson. Now, I don't want to pretend to know all the intricacies of like the tax code, but just like on face value, a flat tax, which I do remember learning about like in fucking college and shit, but like at a very, very like topical level, a flat tax seems to make sense to me. Which Dr. Carson, he's like the neurosurgeon that's running for president. I don't know, it fucking makes sense. And what a flat tax is if that everybody pays the same amount of taxes percentage wise. So if you make $10, you pay $1 worth of taxes. If you make $10 billion, you pay $1 billion worth of taxes. And it's kind of fair. It seems, I don't know, like on, at face value, it seems fair. It seems even. It seems it's not like socialistic in that, if you're like a progressive tax, for example, which Trump is for, is more similar. It's like what we have now, kind of, but not completely, because it's capped at a certain level. But it's like the more you make, the more you pay in taxes. That's like more socialistic. That's the criticism that type of progressive tax gets. But a flat tax seems more like relatively speaking, like even across the board. Which I don't know. Like I said, I don't know the intricacies of it. I don't want to pretend that I know, but at face value, that type of tax makes more sense to me. And Trump is for a progressive tax, but according to him, his plan, which he's planning to put out within the next couple of weeks, means less of a tax for the middle class, but more for the rich, as he calls them, his hedge fund friends, which he knows them all, according to him, and they're not going to like him too much when he comes out with that plan, but it makes more sense, and that just sounds like political bullshit, but whatever. We'll see when that plan, if that plan fucking comes out. And that's pretty much it. That's all I really got for the whole second Republican debate. Now, for the Democratic debate, I have a bunch of stuff that I wrote down. I got into that debate. Take everything that I say with a grain of salt, because I'm a registered Democrat. I'm liberal on most things, and so I have that bit of a bias. So do with that what you will. Now, the first point, guns, that I wanted to speak to, and I wrote here. Rules. I wrote, my first point is fuck the NRA, which is the lobby behind keeping guns legal, and that fight for it's National Rifle Association, if I'm not mistaken, and they are pretty much the financial body behind the movement of being pro guns and shit like that, which I'm not against guns at all. I'm not against infringing on anybody's rights to do whatever the fuck they want, but certain things that I am for, which I guess the NRA is not, is this next point that I wrote down here, which is rural versus urban states could and should have different laws. And common ground. Okay. So some sort of common ground is needed, and it's like, I'm from New York, so I understand that, and the gun laws are different across certain states. Like, I think in like Texas and shit like that, people could, with a permit, I think, just carry a gun like regular people, and over here I think it would be like fucking super hard, and a lot of like red tape to cut through, and bureaucratic shit and stuff like that for anybody to even be able to have one like at home or something, like someone that's not like in law enforcement and stuff like that, because it's a very populated urban city. So I know the laws must be different, but I'm like very much so for that, different. There can't be like a blanket. I don't think that with such a complicated, intricate type of issue, and such like a hot button issue, which, you have certain people that grow up in, let's say, Midwest somewhere where, guns and hunting and stuff like that is part of their culture, is part of who they are, how they define themselves, and they identify with that, like that's part of them, and they see it as like a becoming a man or a woman or type of thing, and bonding with family, and it means a lot to them, like within that sense. And then in urban communities you have like fucking crazy gang violence and stuff like that, riddling urban areas like Chicago and LA and New York and Baltimore and stuff like that, where that tradition is very fucking different when it comes to guns. We don't have that type of like hunting and stuff like that. We it's more like fucking robbing and killing each other type of shit. So it's like you can't have some sort of like a blanket law or whatever the fuck that should apply to everyone. It should be different. It should be regionally different, or fucking state specific different, or even not even state. Go up fucking upstate somewhere in New York, and that shit looks exactly like fucking West Virginia. You know what I mean? Do it very regionally, very, very municipally is the word I'm looking for. Like, do it by like cities, counties, stuff like that. That different laws and rules should apply to very, very, very specific different areas, very get as detailed as you need to get to make rules for specific areas and laws that make sense for that particular area. Like bestow that upon like states and municipalities to enforce and figure out, with the oversight, I guess, of the federal government, since it would be, it is like a federal issue. And again, folks, I don't pretend to know, the intricacies of any of these types of like big convoluted issues, which in terms of like mass shootings and stuff like that, it's very clearly a mental health crazy fucks with guns issue rather than an issue with the actual guns. And this point has been, brought up many times before, and it's not something that's unique to it's not something I came up with, basically. But it's like if somebody, goes to Home Depot and, buys a hammer and starts fucking going to movie theaters and hammering people in the head and killing people with hammers and with drills and shit like that. Are we going to start outlawing hammers and drills because people start doing that? Or, if they start driving their cars into just random people at the mall and killing people, are we going to start outlawing cars? It's like the root of the problem, the root of the issue is the mental state of the individuals that are fucking crazy and fucked up enough to engage in those types of actions. And we have to put, I think, kind of like a safeties, kind of fitting term, safeties on, if we can't get to those people, to make it more difficult for them to obtain, weapons and things that they can use to harm other people and themselves. But keeping in mind that that's just like a band-aid on the problem. It's not attacking the root cause of the issue. It's like hacking away at the branches of the issue. And that's not a healthy way to deal with that type of situation. Which is more of a reason why you need specific areas, laws and rules and regulations and stuff like that, as opposed to just like a blanket, okay, no more than 10 bullets per gun for all 50 states. It's like, all right, dick, that doesn't work fucking everywhere. All right, that's it. That's what I got to say about guns. Now, next point is about financial institutions and big banks being too big to fail, and the whole crisis that we had back in 2007, 2008 with the Great Recession and close to going into another depression, and the TARP programs and bailing out the banks and shit like that. And for those of you that don't know, I wrote a short story which kind of went into the issue. It's called Lecture Hall. If you guys want to check it out at spuntoday.com/short stories. Again, it's called Lecture Hall. And it goes into how these big banks stood by and created an environment which bred predatory lending and gave incentives to smaller banks and mortgage brokers to create environments where predatory lending was not only possible but encouraged, and eventually led to this chain reaction that was the catalyst to the collapse of the financial system and the Great Recession and close to the depression that we went through in 2007 and 2008. So check that out if you want to, and just fucking Google the Great Recession 2007, 2008, and you read all about it. Something interesting that Clinton said, which she did dope in the debate, by the way. I like Bernie Sanders, what he stands for, and kind of like a breath of fresh air like type of guy, but he's not going to be a winnable candidate, in my opinion. But it's like, fuck, if he could be, it would be awesome. It would be, I think, a very good thing for the country. but not realistic at this point. And Clinton did actually very, very well. And I think that she has the what's the word I'm looking for? She has not the ability, I guess you could say the ability, but it's not the word that I'm looking for. She has the, I guess, savvy and kind of like know-how. Like, I don't know. You know, being Secretary of State, being a senator, being fucking married to a president, like, she kind of has, like, she knows her way around, like, I feel, you know what I mean? And she knows how to play the game, the political game. And in that sense, I feel that she's, like, the most winnable candidate, and that could do the most if she actually does the most, even though she's in bed with all these fucking big banks anyway. She said something to the effect of that under her, she's going to be tougher on these too big to fail banks, and that under her financial plan, there'll be more fines, and executives would actually go to jail for like all these fraudulent practices that they did back in 2007, 2008, which, by the way, not one big time executive got locked up or went to jail behind any of that shit. And I just want to point out, like, more fines. I was like, what? Are you fucking serious? You're gonna, like, fine them more? Like, it's like the fines that these big banks get hit with are like a drop in the bucket. To them, it's literally a cost of doing business. It's like, all right, we can take in X amount of dollars worth of fines because we're making X amount of dollars worth of profit. And just to give you guys fucking specific, just to give you guys a little bit of context, let me see, what do I have here? 1.8 billion. Okay. In 2014, and I'm just going to take one of these big banks, and by big banks, I mean like the JP Morgan, Bank of America's, and Citigroup, and Wells Fargo, and like all these like big major players, like names that you guys would recognize. In 2014, the gross income, this is, you know, before paying all this shit, the gross, sales revenue for JP Morgan Chase was $97.9 billion with a B. $97.9 billion. That's in sales revenue, right? Now, their net income, like after paying all their employees, after paying all their shit, after, you know, fucking picture JP Morgan as one person, and they're, you know, they get their weekly check or their, you know, yearly fucking check, let's say, and, you know, Uncle Sam takes all his taxes and they pay all their bills and stuff like that. They were left with $21.8 billion. So $21.8 billion is their net income after all fucking expenses, all bullshit, all whatever. $21.8 billion with a B dollars. All right, this is just in 2014 alone. Okay, so they made close to 100 billion. They're left with a little bit over 20 billion. Now the fines, the biggest fines, like Hillary Clinton said, oh, under my plan, these banks will have to pay more fines. Suck a dick. Go suck fucking Bill Clinton's dick so he doesn't have to get his dick sucked from fucking Monica Lewinsky. The biggest fines ever in the history of this fucking, all this shit. And I'm going to put links to all this in the episode notes, by the way, for any of you guys that want to look it up. And I'm not pulling numbers out of my ass or fucking from theonion.com. This is from the fines is from Wall Street Journal reports, and the the numbers from the monies that JP Morgan made are from their financial records that they have to, you know, it's public information. SEC regulations mandates them to have to, you know, share this information with their shareholders and the public. So it's all legit shit. So going back, kind of a little bit all over the place. Got a little riled up there. So JP Morgan makes $100 billion. They're in gross in sales revenue, and they're left with a little over $20 billion, the biggest fine ever that any of these fucking banks paid. And listen to this. Collectively, it was a joint settlement, the biggest one ever, okay? This is an article published in June of 2014 by the Wall Street Journal. It was a collective settlement paid by Wells Fargo, JP Morgan, Citi, Bank of America, and Ally Financial. That's 5 of these too big to fail banks collectively, joined together, paid a fine of $25 billion. That's about $5 billion each, if it broke down like evenly, which I'm sure it didn't, because they're all like on different levels or whatever. But that's $5 billion each. So you're telling me I make $100 billion, you charge me $5 billion, and I'm not gonna fucking take those fines like fucking appetizers? And what are you gonna fine them more? What are you gonna fine them $10 billion? Ooh, you fucking please. It's fucking disgusting. So that was just straight bullshit. That was like frustrating to hear and listen to. If true, the part of people actually like getting locked up and going to jail, even though I'm sure it'll be like fucking country club, fucking Club Med, fucking jails. At least would be better than them not doing anything. What else? Education. I like something Clinton said about the opportunity for all students to refinance current existing student loans. I have a shitload of them. I would like that opportunity to very low interest rates. And she also supports, such as Bernie Sanders does, and he's been a huge proponent of this. He supports, and she also supports, free public college. And where Bernie supports it just outright, public, colleges for all, tuition free. She mandates that, or she says that students would have to work, though, at least 10 hours a week in order to qualify for going, attending these public colleges, which I couldn't agree with more. I've been working and going to school since I was like 15 is my first job, as a busboy, and I'm all for fucking working and, working hard and going to school. And, I would encourage that for my own children and any of you lazy fucks that are listening to this that don't do the same. So I'm definitely for that. Let's see. Next point, that's education. Next thing I have here is Social Security. So Clinton wants to enhance, quote unquote, that's what she calls it, Social Security, by privatizing it, which means handing over, like, picture like your 401k, how it's managed by like all these like big banks and like stuff like that, and how they invested for you, and that's pretty much what she wants to do with the fund of Social Security, and by privatizing it and giving it to her like Wall Street friends, which is why I say that she's like in bed with the whole Wall Street fucking community, and they're known for being very big donors to the Clintons and shit like that. So that's like it's like common knowledge basically. And let me see, that's what she wants to do, which I don't know, it's kind of like a double-edged sword, that thing. They are the people that know how to make money. If that does have some like safeguards in terms of making sure that there's fucking more money in the fund, then, but with safeguards, they're not just allowed to like gamble away that money like they did back in 2007, 2008 and play with other people's money, then that's different. But if not, then fuck that. Not a good idea. Bernie Sanders says, let me see what I have here. Seniors get $11,000 to $12,000 per year. He says that seniors get $11,000 to $12,000 per year of Social Security, which is true. I can attest to that. And he said in the debate, which I have no idea how they live off of that, which again is something that I agree with, and $11,000 to $12,000 a year. And a lot get less than that, because from that, then they have to deduct their Medicare comes out of that, and their prescription drugs and stuff like that, and it's insane. He says that in order to make sure that Social Security is solvent for years to come, meaning that, you know, we'll fucking have it and it'll be there, that you have to lift the cap that's currently on Social Security so that the billionaires and millionaires aren't paying the same as someone who makes $118,000. Because the way it works is you pay into Social Security. If you guys notice, like in your paychecks and stuff like that, you have money that goes to like Medicare and Social Security and stuff like that. You pay in an amount up to your income. Once your income gets to $118,000 per year, that's it. It makes no difference if you make $118,000 per year or $10 billion per year. The person that's making $10 billion is paying the exact same amount as the person paying $118,000 per year into the pool of monies that is Social Security. And then from that, that's what's divided amongst all the seniors that qualify for Social Security, and that wind up getting $11,000 to $12,000 per year. So Bernie Sanders is saying, which to me sounds very logical, that you lift that cap, and instead of a billionaire paying the same as someone making $118,000 a year, you know, somebody that's paying $250,000 a year or $400,000 a year, they're paying also a little bit more into that Social Security fund. And there's the argument of, you know, a billionaire has their own private, like, healthcare. Why should they pay into Social Security and stuff like that? But I don't. Those are dangerous arguments to have, man. It's like, I don't think it's socialism when it's something that's for the greater good, for all of us, for the majority of, you know, seniors. And it's like, you know, I fucking drive a boat and fly around all the time. You know, I don't drive, so why should I pay my local taxes for the streets and paved roads and stuff like that? It's like, really, like, come on. It's in the best interest of everyone to have like that infrastructure and that type of stuff. And it's like, I have the same sort of feelings towards paying into a system that's for the betterment of not only for myself, for my future or my parents' futures and grandparents and stuff like that, but everybody else's, you know, my fucking next door neighbors and, you know, the families in fucking Georgia and, you know, just fucking everyone, you know, like people that actually need it. Like, if you can, like, why not? Like, lift them up. And lastly, on the Democratic debate, there's this guy running, which I didn't know until I saw this debate, is the governor of Maryland, which is Governor O'Malley. He has a good demeanor about him. He's very thoughtful with his answers and stern, but he's a touch too hesitant at times, I noticed, which didn't bode well. But aside from that, like, he made some very interesting and good points. And just like what was most captivating about him was like his very thoughtful demeanor, the way he answered questions and stuff like that. If you guys want to watch these debates, I put links again in the episode notes for both the Democratic and the Republican debate. And again, I put JP Morgan Chase's fourth quarter financial reports for 2014 directly from their site. There's a link for that in the episode notes, as well as the Wall Street Journal article that details not just the biggest find that I mentioned, which was the drop in the bucket, $25 billion between 5 different big banks. I put that link in the article, but it goes down the list of the top, 10 finds ever for all these institutions. And that covers the Democratic and Republican national debate. Now, within that realm of like taxation and like stuff like that, I have 3 more things to speak about in this intro, by the way. In this fucking super long intro. And whatever, I don't even know what the fuck I call it an intro anymore. It's fucking just part of the show. Within that realm of like taxation and stuff like that, I had a conversation with my physical therapy doctor guy. Like I told you guys, I've had like fucked up knees. I go to physical therapy, and it's getting benefits from it, and I enjoy going. But whatever. I was shooting the shit with my doctor there, and the Young Turks posted a new video, and he was speaking to. Because the way it works is like they set you up like on a machine or doing an exercise and stuff like that. Then they go see another patient, and it's like an open place, and and it's pretty cool. They like jump from person to person, and there's 2 to 3 different doctors there at a time, and you work with one of them, then work with another one, and it's pretty cool. And they're all like cool and like young doctors, and it's pretty dope. Anyway, my main doctor, I was speaking to him, and he comes over to me just like with a look of awe on his face, and he was like, he was just having a conversation with this other dude that's a Harvard lawyer, or a lawyer from Harvard or some shit like that, and they were having the debate of like taxation, how, and I guess like being socially. My doctor told him that he's fiscally conservative. He himself, like the doctor, fiscally conservative, but socially liberal. Like he's for gay marriage and abortion. Pro fucking abortion or whatever you would call it, and but fiscally conservative, like with his money. And I'm exactly the same way. Like I feel exactly the same way. Which is why I'm more like in line with the like the Democratic Party on most things. Even like because I feel like they actually do a little bit more. I think they wind up boiling down to being the same shit, and it's not a real democracy. It's like a plutocracy, and it's fucking owned and operated by the financial interests that are poured into the pockets of all these politicians, which wind up being puppets for whoever it is that's putting money in their pockets. So generally speaking, it boils down to being the same shit. You just have a little bit of a tilt to the left or a little bit of tilt to the right in terms of, I think, mainly social issues, which is where I'm more in line with Democrats, which are, more, pro-choice and into gay marriage and letting people do whatever the fuck it is that they want to do with certain things like that. And what was my point? All right, so I feel the same way, but fiscally more conservative, like when it comes to like my money and shit. And the Harvard lawyer dude was saying that you can't be both. And then, so my doctor comes to me, he's like, in awe, he was like, you can't, he was like, I just had this conversation with this Harvard lawyer dude, and he, like, explained to me in a way that I never thought of it before, and now I get it, that you can't really be, according to this lawyer, the Harvard lawyer guy, you can't be both fiscally conservative and socially liberal. It goes hand in hand. Like if you're conservative on both. If you're liberal on both, and that's how it has to be, because it doesn't work the other way around. And I don't want to pretend that I fucking, I don't know. I don't want to come with this. I don't even know how to say it, like with this like kumbaya, type of fucking grandiose idea. But like his main point was, you have to be both fiscally and socially conservative, because if you're socially conservative, if you're fiscally conservative, what was his point? He said you can't, if you tax less, you have to tax more to have all these socially liberal type of programs and stuff like that. You have to have, what was it? Fuck, I'm fucking it up. If you allow abortions and stuff like that, and that type of, you lean towards that social liberal mentality, you end up having less people And if you have less people, then you have less people to tax. And if you have less people to tax, then you have less monies for all these social programs and stuff like that. Which is why you have to either be both socially and fiscally liberal, or both fiscally and socially conservative. You can't have your cake and eat it too, basically, is what he was trying to say. And my thing to that was like, one, if you have less people to tax, and that's the reason why it's like not a good idea or whatever the fuck is, then it's like, if you have less people to tax, so there's less money to go around, so there's less money for these social programs. Isn't it also like you have less people to have to spend the money on for those programs? So it doesn't matter that there's, less money to go around. There's also less people to like waste it on, kind of thing. That was like one thing that I was thinking. And the second thing I was thinking was like, I think with these like big issues like that, these like issues that are like entrenched in our, like the fabric of our society, we tend to start off from this, no, we can't do it that way because it's never been done that way and we shouldn't. And like, unless I'm completely missing something, which is very, very possible, of the intricacies of economics and how it just doesn't, they're mutually exclusive, and they don't, you can't be both fiscally conservative and socially liberal. It's like, why the fuck not? Why can't you? And if the answer is just that it doesn't work out that way because we haven't done it that way, then it's like, I'm sorry, fucking try it that way, because the way that we're doing it doesn't fucking work really well either. You know what I mean? So fucking give it a fucking whirl. I'm sorry, I don't agree with that shit. I am fiscally conservative and socially liberal. And let's put our domes together and figure out a way to make that work the way it should. I don't know. I just thought that conversation was interesting. It went a lot more interesting when it happened, I promise. And let's see, 2 more things. That's it. Before I read for you guys my free writing piece, which is like a world peace type of fucking kumbaya type of post, like I told you guys a little bit earlier, which kind of goes in line with my thinking of why the fuck not? Why can't we do it that way? Mr. Harvard lawyer guy. 2 more things that I want to mention. One of which is the Amy Schumer HBO special. Amy Schumer is such a funny fucking person, and really, really enjoyed that special. It was hilarious. If you guys haven't seen it, it's on HBO. You can watch it on demand. And she's just super funny. Her sensibilities and her style of comedy, I'm like really into, and she's just fucking hilarious. And you guys know I like the movie Trainwreck. I mentioned that before in a past episode. I told you guys a little bit about it. She's on a roll. She's doing really awesome, and you guys should definitely check it out. I wanted to mention one thing about Amy Schumer, which recently has become like it's been in the news or whatever, or within that world, that she supposedly stole, or not supposedly stole, but there's an article that came out in Uproxy, Uprox, and I'm sure a bunch of other places, but the one that I read was in Uprox, and I put a link to the actual article so you guys can see it for yourselves in the episode notes as well, which also includes like a video, and it's referencing Amy Schumer doing a couple of the same jokes as the late great Patrice O'Neal, and I don't think, and I'll go on record for what it's worth for my half a dozen listeners, that Amy Schumer she's way too talented and too ill at what she does to be a joke thief, to be a fucking Carlos Mencia. And I don't see it. I really don't think that she did. Nobody knows except for her, and nobody's going to. But if you guys take a look at these, at that article and read the two jokes, which are the two jokes that she ended her special with, it's literally almost identical to a joke that Patrice O'Neal did. So on its face, it seems it doesn't look good. But then you find out that they used to host a show together. They used to work together. Patrice O'Neal, she's like within that same circle of friends of Amy Schumer, Jim Norton, Joe Rogan, all these dudes, David Tell, like within that group, like that pocket of comics. And comics, it's a premise that I'm sure has been done many times over by a lot of different comics. They work together, they chill together. They say maybe they wrote it together, the jokes, which I don't think it's that either. But it's like the premise is based on like sex, like Dirty Sanchez, like the sex fucking what do you call them, like moves or tricks or whatever the fuck. And comics have this like a unique to themselves, but unique to them as a whole also, if that makes sense, like way of thinking. And I feel that I think it's parallel thinking, personally. If I had to guess, like if I had to bet on it, I would say that it was definitely parallel thinking mixed in with just being around each other and exposed to joking around within, they vibe together well. They hosted a show together back in the day. They were friends, and when you chill with people, you wind up kind of like not acting and talking like them, but you bleed into each other, you influence each other. And I think it's all that intertwined with just having the same train of thoughts and mentality, and that's how I feel that that she would have came up with it, for whatever the fuck my opinion's worth. But you guys see for yourself. Let me know what you guys think. Again, the article was on Uproxx, UPROXX, and it's referencing Amy Schumer and Patrice O'Neal. And again, they do a good job of putting the clip of Patrice O'Neal doing it back in 2005, and then Amy Schumer doing it now in 2015 in her latest special on HBO, which again was fucking hilarious. And Amy Schumer, you have an open invitation to come to the Spun Today podcast whenever you'd like and speak about your passion and your craft of writing jokes that make everybody laugh like crazy. And lastly, the last thing that I want to speak about and mention is, on my quest for the perfect cup of coffee, I have found a very good, very dope coffee, which is the pumpkin spice Trader Joe's coffee. This coffee is brought to you in part by Slim Shit. No, I'm joking. This coffee is, I'm pretty sure it's just going to be like a seasonal, it's fucking Halloween time, so everything's going to be pumpkin now. So I'm pretty sure it's just going to be a seasonal thing, which is good because, like, this isn't the type of, like, flavor coffee that I would, if I had to drink this every day for a year, I would fucking puke and kill myself. But right now it tastes fucking amazing because it's a nice, different flavor. And it is pumpkin spice with orange peel, cinnamon, nutmeg, allspice, ground vanilla, and pumpkin spice. And it's a medium roast Arabica ground coffee. And it's fucking delicious. I really, really like it. I enjoy it a lot. I recommend it. Get it while you can. And enjoy it. Enjoy it, everyone. And that is it. God damn, that has to be the longest intro in fucking history, an hour and a half. And now let's get to the free writing portion of this podcast, which is going to wind up being a lot shorter than the rest of this podcast. This is a post that you guys can read along with if you'd like. And if you don't want to read along with it, you can listen to it. And if you like it, go read it later. It's located at spuntoday.com/free writing. And there's a bunch of other posts on there that I've covered in older free writing episodes of this podcast. And some that I haven't. But they're all there. spuntoday.com/free writing. And if you want something more structured, you can check out the short stories that I've written at spuntoday.com/short stories. But right now, this is a free writing post. I posted it. Let me see when I wrote it. I wrote it back on July 5th, 2013 at 7:13 p.m. And I remember exactly where I was and what I was doing when I wrote this. And I'll tell you guys right before I start reading it. But just so you guys can find it, it's the post I posted it on the website. So it's the date right on top of the post on October 12th, 2015. Now, in Queens, there's something called, what the fuck is it called? The World's Fair, which I'm not exactly sure what it is, but there's like a huge globe. It's by where Shea Stadium used to be, where Citi Field is now. It's in Flushing Meadow Park. There's like this huge globe of the world, a globe. And there's these like restaurants. Oh, you guys ever saw Men in Black? You know where the Men in Black, I think part 1, where that big cockroach dude like runs away in a cab and goes to Queens, and he goes into these yellow saucer looking things in the sky, and he's like climbing it up, and they turn into like spaceships, those 2 yellow things. That's real, and that's actually in Queens in Flushing Meadow Park, and it's called the World's Fair. Right next to it is like this big huge globe made of steel, and it's in a park. And I wrote this while I was having a picnic there with my girl back in 2013 in July. And we went there and we're chilling there, and I was reading the plaque on this like big globe thing, and it says, part of the quote of it says, man's aspirations towards peace through mutual understanding. World Fair, April 22nd, 1964. That's like the engraving that was on it. So I'll say that quote again. Man's aspirations toward peace through mutual understanding. And that got me to thinking a little bit and gave me a, miscongeniality, world peace type of idea that I wanted to free write about. And I did as follows. What a concept. What keeps it from coming to fruition? Vices like greed and ego, and any other combination of seemingly rational thought, irrationally acting in favor of self-preservation and self-preservation alone. How difficult would a utopian society be with a mantra of mutual understanding? Impossible, right? It could never happen. We can't all get along. That's too far-fetched, too grandiose an idea. But why? Why not have a difficult takes a day, impossible takes a week mindset, quote unquote, to quote Jay-Z? Why not take a grandiose stance and approach to match a grandiose problem? Like a cancer, our differences and lack of mutual understanding are keeping us from our mutual goal of peace and prosperity, and we're letting it. Sitting back, finding newer and more creative ways to enhance our differences, instead of implementing those innovations of telling differences to enhance positivity and growth. We're all guilty of it, myself included, but really don't have to be. Wanting the best for ourselves, our families, and our friends shouldn't be treated as some scarce natural resource. It should be as plentiful and as giving as infinity, an endless supply and amount to go around, given so much so that it never has to be taken. From every landmass and body of water to every blade of grass and grain of sand, peace through mutual understanding. And I wrote that on Friday, July 5th, 2013 at 7:13 p.m. And yeah, like I said, it's a very, with motherfuckers like Putin in the world and fucking the empire of the U.S., it's a very grandiose and far-fetched and impossible idea. But it doesn't hurt to strive for it, does it? It doesn't. I don't think it does. It doesn't hurt. Even like if we start it like at a very minute level of like self, and doing it with yourself and your family and your friends, and kind of sort of like spreading that type of positive vibe and an idea of mutual understanding to just enhance the relationships around you, you know, and hopefully that ripple effect ripples throughout the rest of the fucking world eventually, and gets us to where we would ideally all want to be. Like, who wouldn't want that? Who wouldn't want fucking peace through mutual understanding? Like, what irrational fuck wouldn't want that? And anybody who really doesn't want that, fucking chop his head off, or her head off, and get rid of him. Cut off the cancer. It's fucking thin out the herd. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I like a couple lines in here, actually, not to pat myself on the back, but I like the way it sounded when I read it. Like a cancer, our differences and lack of mutual understanding are keeping us from our mutual goal of peace and prosperity, and we're letting it. I like that. And what else? There was one more that kind of stood out to me. And yeah, that like last piece of wanting the best for ourselves and our families and our friends shouldn't be treated as some scarce natural resource. It should be as plentiful and as giving as infinity, an endless supply and amount to go around, given so much so that it never has to be taken. From every land mass and body of water to every blade of grass and grain of sand. It's kind of like that like buoy in the water mentality of lifting up all the buoys and everything around you. And that's the way it should be. And that's the way it should fucking be. And that's pretty much it, folks. That's the piece that I wanted to read to you guys today. Let me know what you guys think. Again, check it out at spuntoday.com/free writing. And that's it. That's the episode for today. So let's just wrap up with a couple of with some housework, some cleanup. And like I said, check out the website, spuntoday.com. There's a free writing section on there. There's a photography section on there. You can listen to all these podcasts on there. You guys can read some short stories on there. There's a dope Ode to Podcast section where I transcribed a bunch of cool moments from different podcasts that I listen to, and put them on there for you guys, along with links to those specific podcasts. You guys can go check them out. And it's stuff like Good Times with Steve Simone, The Church of What's Happening Now, the Drunken Taoist podcast, the Joe Rogan Experience, and a bunch of my favorites are on there. And that's the Ode to Podcasts section at the spuntoday.com website. I also have a questionnaire that I encourage any and all of you to fill out if you'd like. It's a questionnaire featuring 5 questions, and you fill them out. It's it's not like a drop down type of thing. It's kind of like a free text field for each question. And it's related to like a hobby or a passion that you have, something that you're creative with and that you enjoy doing. And it allows you to share tips and tricks of how you get through like mental blocks and writer's block and just like mental resistance and barriers that you may come across, and how you get past that, so that you can share with me and the rest of the Spun Today podcast community. Feel free to fill that out at spuntoday.com/questionnaire. I read your responses on future episodes of the Spun Today podcast free writing sessions like this one. And you have the option of remaining anonymous if you would like to. But yeah, I encourage you guys to fill it out if you guys want to. Also, there are a couple of ways that you can support the podcast. The main one being rating and reviewing the podcast on iTunes and Stitcher. Doesn't cost you anything, obviously. Just go on there, rate and review the podcast. Let me know what you guys think via that. It helps the podcast gain exposure, and it helps other people, pick up on it. The more you review it, the more popular the podcast gets, and so forth. And it would be a big help. What else? You can support the podcast financially if you'd like. There's a bunch of photos on my website which you can download for free. They're also on Instagram, under the photography section on my website. But all of those photos, if you happen to like them so much that you want like some sort of frame or poster or something like that, you can go to a website that I'm affiliated with, which is created.com. created.com/Spun Today. All of those same photographs that I've taken are available on that website, and that website gives you the option of purchasing actual prints, and you can turn them into frames, posters of all different sizes and stuff like that if you would choose to. That would be a way to support the podcast. Also, on my website, there's a page called the affiliate links. If you click on that, it takes you to a page that has a PayPal donation button if you want to make a donation. It has the Amazon banners, which are very popular within the podcast community, and as well as banners for iTunes movies, music, and free books. Actually, if you want some free books from iTunes, just go on spuntoday.com/affiliate links and click on the free books, and there's like free ebooks and shit that you could download there. And like I said, the Amazon banner, the way it works, if you guys go on my website, click on the Amazon banner, it takes you to Amazon's website where you do your shopping like you normally do, and it doesn't cost you anything extra, but Amazon gives me a kickback just for driving traffic towards their website. Just because you visited my website before visiting theirs and you bought something, Amazon gives me a kickback. And again, it does not cost you anything extra, and it's a way that you can support the podcast, and I would appreciate it. What else? That is photos of further links, rate and review, listen to the podcast. There's you guys can listen to the podcast obviously on iTunes, on Stitcher. You can listen to it on YouTube. There's a YouTube page, which you can reach through the links on my website as well. There's a Tumblr page, and if that's what you guys are into, you can listen to it through there. Now you can also listen to it via Pocket Casts, which is a different podcast catcher. Podcast catchers like iTunes, Stitcher, what they do is catch the RSS feeds of different podcasts and then play them for you. Pocket Casts is a different service like that, which, if I'm not mistaken, is big within like Windows phones and stuff like that. iTunes is for Apple phones, Stitcher is for like Androids and other phones, and Windows phones and others have something called Pocket Casts, which you can now use to download and listen to these Spun Today podcasts. I'm sure you could download Pocket Casts with with an iPhone or Androids and like stuff like that too. But I think they're most popular within like that Windows phone community. Those weirdos. And you can follow me on Twitter at Spun Today. Hit me up on there if you would like. You can check out the Facebook, the Spun Today Facebook page at facebook.com/Spun Today. I have pictures there of not just like all the photography and shit like that I put on the website, but different, pictures of shit that I've spoken about like throughout the episode, or past episodes and stuff like that, and more just like, you know, out and about type pictures, you know, not actual like photography taken with